My friends, I'm so happy to be bringing to the microphone, to the platform, Micah Haince from Noble Gold, one of the best, if not the best. Um, what would you call it? Companies, facilitators, gold investment
We're
vehicle,
a full service broker dealer of physical gold and silver bullion.
the best, the nicest, the easy. As you'll see, it can't be any more nice than this. Do I hear a bit of Canada here? Is it me?
So my family's in Canada. I was in Encino, California when I started working for the company. I do now live with my wife and children in on San Juan Island in Washington. So we've been in the US for 8 years. It's very interesting. You detected that like almost right off the bat. So grew up in Vancouver, Canada, if you know where that is. Beautiful part of the country, not far from where we are now. But been in the US a long time, left pre-COVID, obviously since COVID and after all the stuff that we saw up in Canada during that time with the
Oh,
truckers and this
oh,
and that. I couldn't have been any happier with leaving. So we're dual citizens and my kids are all born here.
wonderful people, great people, and it's so funny with,
Ah,
especially in view of the hearings that were going on yesterday, which we won't go into. But you mentioned the word COVID, and of course, that
yes,
hits a
those were
nerve.
interesting. I know the whole
Yeah.
thing with Fauci just boggles my mind. That guy should be behind bars, but yay, another topic for
Hey,
another day. But
hey,
I'm of that ilk, right? The same as you're following. Never got vaccinated, never wanted to do any of that stuff, was totally against it from day one, just from my gut. And that same kind of nature or contrarian nature is kind of what led me into gold and silver. So before we started recording today, I mentioned I've been with the company 6 years. I've been buying gold and silver for 10. When I started learning about money, what it actually is versus what we think it is, the currency versus actual money, that's a really big topic. And when you
well, wait
get
a
into
minute. Stop right there, just for a second.
yeah,
Uh, and by the way, I love that was the best segue I've ever heard. He went from
I do
Fauci
my
jail
best.
to gold and silver. Damn,
Boom.
he's good, and
Yeah.
he's a Canadian, no less. I kid, of course. Great people, but what is money? Because I love the rudimentary questions. See, I'm a
Yeah.
trial lawyer by profession, so I always say, what is assault? It's not what you think. What is the? So I like to start with the basics. What is money?
Yeah.
What should we know, and what is it not?
Yeah, so money and currencies are very different. Obviously, we talk about the price of gold and silver in US dollars. Think of currencies as a unit of measurement. One of the things that people perceive is that gold and silver prices go up and down. Really, what it is the value of the currency and the strength of the currency actually fluctuating. And we know that over time, currencies have lost an extraordinary amount of value. They don't hold value long term. And money's forever. Gold and silver are forever. They have been considered money and the ultimate forms of money for thousands of years through every civilization, through all booms and bust cycles, through every crash and reset. Gold and silver are always there, but currencies actually come and go. So in Western civilization, we've had over 700 currencies die. The average lifespan of a currency is 40 years, but the current currency that we're on, it's just these things take a long time. It's 55 years old. We came off the gold standard in 71 and we've been on the petrodollar ever since. So when you talk about money, people think, okay, I've got $100 in my wallet, I've got $100,000 in my 401k. Well, what you have is just currency, right? You don't actually have any money unless you own gold and silver. Gold and silver are the only forms of money that are recognized by the Constitution. It's been interesting to see in the last few years the trend of states re-recognizing gold and silver as actual money and eliminating different taxes that apply, whether sales tax or capital gains tax, because you shouldn't be taxed for owning money. You can't, that concept should be foreign. So when I talk about currencies versus money, it's really a matter of risk. Currencies are a lot riskier, especially with where we're at in the currency cycle, where at 55 years doesn't mean the dollar goes down in flames tomorrow, but I don't think it has a lot of time left before we see something new. And the trend, obviously, on top of a dying dollar for many decades in a row, and that that'll accelerate. We saw a lot of inflation out of COVID. This was actually part of the conversation with the Fed yesterday at FOMC, Kevin Warsh's second meeting that he's presided over as the chair. Inflation's on the rise. We know that oil prices are on the rise, but we've had so much money printing since 2020 with the COVID lockdowns. It was $9 trillion out of nowhere that they printed.
Right.
And when we get to another financial crisis, and they're always just a matter of time, and we haven't, I don't think seen anything yet. We have a stock market bubble, a bond market bubble, and a housing market bubble. What we have right now is the biggest bubble of all time, referred to as the everything bubble. It will pop at some point. And when it does, what do you think the government's going to do? They're going to rush to bail out the economy and bail out the banks that are failing. And they're going to print probably $20 trillion in the next big print. And that's what I say is we've had two big ones, 2008, 2020, whether it's 27 or 28, the next big print's going to be multiples more. And that's where any money that you have that's in currencies is at risk of deteriorating even more. So if you want to protect yourself longer term, of course, we made a lot of money in gold and silver the last few years, but I don't see it as a place to make money. It's a place to protect your wealth and hold the ultimate
That's
form
an
of money.
That's an excellent point. We're talking to Micah Haince. It's funny. Remember in the days of the fall of the Weimar or during Germany, where they would take wheelbarrows full of cash. I don't remember, Micah, them ever melting down gold when things were bad. To get that heat. Nobody took their silver and threw it into the boiler. It doesn't matter. And I don't. Maybe you're the same way. Gold, silver, copper. What copper is involved in virtually everything, from every conceivable kind of machinery to weaponry. I don't know. People say, why is gold so special? Look, get over it, Sparky. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It just is. Remember the tulip craze? You were big in that. You went long in the tulip craze.
I wasn't around then. Wasn't around for Weimar either. But whenever you hear the word hyperinflation, that's the images that are conjured. We obviously haven't experienced hyperinflation in the West, but it's actually a phenomenon that the world is very familiar with. So it's happening right now in Lebanon and in Turkey. It's happened in Zimbabwe in 2020. It was Venezuela that had a currency crisis. And what people might not remember, because we had a lot going on in 2020 with COVID too, was there was news footage of people in the streets of Venezuela. They're littered with banknotes. No one would take your paper money. What people were doing at that time is they were weaving hats, belts, and wallets out of the actual banknotes so that you could have something that's worth something. Like a belt is worth more than a useless piece of paper if you got to keep your pants on. So people were trading paper banknote items for things to eat that day. Now, obviously the ultimate form of money in a situation like that where people don't want paper money is physical gold and silver. So there are many historical examples of what happens when a government prints too much money. And with Weimar, that's what happened. Was they had all these war reparations that were laid on them through World War I.
Right.
And they owed all these hundreds of millions of dollars at the time that they didn't have. So they said, we'll just print it. Well, what happened? Right. The Reichmark went to absolute zero. Gold shot up like over 1,000,000% in terms of dollar value, right, or mark value at that point in time. So it really got you out of a pinch. Now, what we see, again, is kind of a scary trend, but it should be encouraging to those who either have gold and silver or who are thinking seriously about getting some, is that central banks have been buying gold and silver like crazy for the last several years.
Gee, I wonder why that is.
The writing's on the wall. Yeah. Well, they know where things are going. They're, if not actually setting the agenda for where the world is going, they're at least a few steps ahead. Like with COVID and other things, they're kind of, preordained or, kind of preset. We've got an agenda that's in place and it's just rolling out. And we're the last to know when these things are really going to hit the fan. But if they're buying gold and silver like it's going out of style now, what they're preparing for, in my opinion, is that next big print of global financial crisis, worse than 2008, worse than the dot-com bubble in 2000, worse than 1929. Kind of all those things mixed and mashed together is what I think we get at some point in the next, let's say, year or two. We're pretty close to it. It could be sooner than that, but I don't like to be too sensationalistic and say that we can time it. We certainly can't. When it happens is $1 trillion question, but they know that the next big print is coming. It's the only thing they can do to save us from that next big financial crisis. And when that happens, they'll actually ruin currencies. And what's unique, Lionel, about this time in history is the whole world used to be on a gold standard, and they came off in the Great Depression because they wanted the ability to print money without being tethered to gold. Well, now is the only time in in the world's history where every single country in the world has been on fiat, and fiats always fail. There's no exception to it. It's just about what kind of time frame. And even Voltaire, the French philosopher, said this back in the 1800s, that all fiat currencies return to their intrinsic value of zero. And he's right, but they're buying gold and silver preemptively in anticipation for a currency crisis, probably a national debt crisis, probably some kind of debt jubilee where we all return to a gold standard, and how much say you have or how much power you have at the new kind of the table in the new financial system will be how much dependent on how much gold you actually have.
Okay, now you've whetted our appetite. I am scared out of my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to make weave belts out of my, oh my God, this man. Now that we've, and by the way, I kid, of course, but what you're saying is absolutely true, because you're saying, look, don't take my word for it. I didn't just make this up. This isn't a script, a story plot I'm working on. This is reality. Okay, let's say right now I'm going to say, all right, I'm sold. I've got one simple question. What the hell do I do? I don't even know about, I'm afraid that, people will tell you that. I'm afraid to even ask you, do I buy the gold? Do you keep the gold? Do you keep the gold? Can I put 401k? What do I do? Help me. Where do I start with Noble Gold? By the way, the best.
And honestly, I couldn't work anywhere else. We know that a lot of gold companies are always out there, and I do always encourage people to do their due diligence. But we're a company that's run by a small family. We're a very small team. We're all investors. I'm not a sales guy. I've never had a sales job before this one. I don't even consider myself to be in a sales role. It's more of like a guidance role. I hunt, and I like my hunting guides to know what they're doing when I'm going out in the unknown territory. So they take care of me when I'm doing that stuff. I'll take care of you too. So it just starts with a call, and email as well. I don't know if it's appropriate, but a lot of people do like to email instead of talking on the phone because they're a little gun shy. So I can leave an email where you can reach me. You can call our number, which you'll leave the link to, and you can ask for Micah. What's nice about doing these interviews, my CEO does them as well. Of course, you've had Colin on your show, but you can't really work on your on your trade or your deal or your purchase with Colin because he's doing a lot more important things running our company. But you can actually call and pick up this conversation and speak with me. And like I said, I'm not a sales guy. I just want to provide you with the questions and the answers. But at the end of the day, Lionel, what we are is a physical bullion dealer. We're what's called a full service broker dealer. We get you into your metal. We are your brokers and your advisors. And I would be your metals guy for the ownership and the duration of the life of your account. We'll buy your metal back from you at any time. And what we deal in is physical gold and physical silver. So it's coins, bars, large or small, from anywhere in the world, depending on what you want. Our approach is you want to get the best bang for your buck. You want to get the most ounces for your money. And we stay away from these kind of collectible high premium coins that a lot of other companies like to push. And so what we do is we get physical gold and silver into your hands. We do home deliveries to your doorstep. They're fully insured. They're securely delivered. They're backed by us and guaranteed to arrive. And that's a way of having it stored with you at home. Now, I've been doing this a long time. I keep a lot of gold and silver, mostly silver coins here at home. In the case of an emergency, they're still a great investment, but they're kind of like my insurance. If something happens, if we have hyperinflation, if the dollar goes away or we wake up one morning and the lights don't turn on, I can barter with my gold and silver with farmers down the road. And I'm a homesteader. I live in a homesteading community now where everyone grows their own food. Everyone's always trading all the time. And gold and silver are actually seen as, again, the ultimate form of money in the right type of community or right type of circumstance. But so having some metal at home makes sense. Everybody needs a little bit. How much obviously depends on your situation. But we also do physical precious metals for retirement accounts. And what we do is we help you move money from your existing 401k or IRA into something that's called a self-directed physical precious metals IRA, where you own that physical metal within a retirement account structure. So you have all the tax benefits of moving it with no taxes or penalties, of making all this profit with no capital gains. But that metal sits in a segregated vaulted account, kind of like a safety deposit box that acts as your IRA, because we do need to keep those metals inside of an IRA structure so that you're not being taxed or penalized. Right. So with physical metals, at the end of the day, that's all we do. You can own it at home. We send it to you, or you can have it stored in a vaulted account. And actually, for people who buy with cash that don't want it at home, we do open up or have storage options for that as well. But super simple asset to own, super low risk asset to own, one that has a ton of protection and insurance upside. And of course, we've had a great market. Like this time last year, silver was $30. It's $60 now. It had a high of 120 a few months ago. Gold was 3,200 this time last year, got to 5,500 in January. Now it's 4,000. But like I said, floor on these prices with central bank buying and where everything is going. You want to look at it as a longer term, multi-year buy and hold. These are not to trade. Of course, you can sell them at any time when you buy them from us, but we always recommend people look at them as a 2 to 3 year minimum hold. 3 to 5 is preferable, but they're going to take care of you over those next few years with everything that we've got going on and coming down the pike.
And by the way, if you get this is weird. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever held in your hand a gold bar, I mean, I don't know. Like one time I was talking to Colin and he said, you know what this is? I go, oh my God, because you see them on TV. It's the Die Hard. Didn't they have this? You've heard of them, but he goes, this, pretty heavy. What's this? That's about, I don't know, $300,000. And you think, yeah, wait a minute, if even the gold coins, I have this simple thing. Does this show somebody this? There's something about it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Does that make any sense?
That's when I got the bug like over 10 years ago, the first time. And, I've been talking about what money really is and what the difference between money and currency is. When you hold real gold and silver for the first time, there's almost this like frequency kind of like elemental, like magic. And it's just kind of like a vibrational thing where you're like holding the elements that the universe and the world has always viewed as actual money. You kind of have this like, oh my God kind of feeling. And it's super special. Obviously we believe in holding some at home, but the physical nature of these very, very precious metals is really cool. And, I keep a lot of metal with me. I play with it in my desk. One of my favorite pieces is, this is a 10-ounce silver rail spike. My dad worked on the railroad my whole life. And I just keep it on my desk as a paperweight to kind of remind me of, humble beginnings.
I got to ask.
Yeah.
I got to ask. What did that set you back there, Micah?
When I bought it, it was $200. Silver was $20, and it's $600-ish now. So, most of the silver that I've accumulated over the years is probably at a $20 an ounce price basis. But I just bought some yesterday at $58. Turned out to be actually a pretty decent buy, and I think it'll prove to be through this fall. But yeah, look, most of our clients right now, most of our business is repeat and referral, and the people that I see buying right now at $58, $60 silver are the clients of mine that have been with me for years that already own it at 20 and 30, right? They know that the high of 120 from a couple months ago is nothing compared to where the metals are actually going in the coming years. And so this is a really good time to accumulate. And I'll just add to that, if you look at price data and you overlay the last 50 decades of monthly price action, June and July often mark the low for the remainder of the year. So it's the best time to buy is generally in the summer. Now, I know everyone should be touching grass and being on a beach somewhere and enjoying your summer, but one of the best times to think proactively about what types of risks you're exposed to in your retirement accounts and in your just portfolios, again, with stocks being risky and bonds being risky and housing being risky, one of the best times to think about your big picture portfolio is in the summer when these prices are low. It's the best time to accumulate. So we have a lot of that happening right now. And again, the conviction of seeing much higher prices later on, the people who own it much cheaper like me are still buying here at these prices. What
is the number one misunderstanding that drives you crazy? Everybody's got something where somebody will say something. If I hear one person, like, where did that come from? Because I get in legal matters, and people will say something, watch TV. But what's one of the biggest misconceptions that you would right now like to allay and remove immediately?
Yeah, I think it's that, it's time in the market, not timing the market. As far as stocks go, the most conventional advice that you'll hear from your financial advisor is, "Oh, it's okay if the stock market crashes; it'll always come back." Well, we have several historical precedents for when you're in this kind of bubble territory. You could be looking at years, if not decades, of time needed to get back to break even when the bubble bursts. And I'll give you a couple of these examples. In 1989, the Nikkei And at that time, Japan had the most expensive stock market and real estate market. But when the Nikkei, which is their version of the S&P 500, when that crashed in 1989 by 80%, it didn't actually recover that 1989 high until 2019. It took 30 years to get back to break even in the Japanese indices. And then in the 2000 dot-com bubble, which actually is very eerily similar to what we're going through right now with tech and AI, and actually so scary to the point that the BIS, which is the Bank of International Settlements,
In Basel,
think of them as the central bank for central banks.
Yep.
They issued a warning a couple of weeks ago saying that the leverage and the debt and the financing and the circular financing and the types of things they're seeing behind the AI bubble is more concerning now than any previous bubble ever seen.
Here. In fact, what's so interesting about it, though, it's, there's always, Warren Buffett, bless his heart, every now and then will say something. And it makes sense. He says, I don't understand. If I don't understand, I don't really want to go, no, you don't. And I don't want to go into crypto. I don't want to get into that argument. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I know people who have no idea what it's about, and they just assume, and that's great. And again, God love them. But I can almost, let's write the script for a new movie. Gold becomes worthless. How? What would have to, how would that
only asset you can guarantee can never go to zero.
I know.
Right. Physical commodities in general, but like the monetary metals especially in this type of environment. But sorry to that, I just want to finish that thought. In 2000, when the BIS warning is saying there's so many similarities now, and the debt and structure behind the AI bubble is worse than the housing bubble in 2006, worse than the dot-com bubble in 2000. Well, we talked about the Nikkei, but the NASDAQ, which was the tech stock index that had all these dot-com stocks in 2000, and actually it's still the index that holds all the tech and AI stuff from today's bubble. But when it crashed in 2000, it crashed by 85%, and it didn't actually recover the 2000 high until 2013. So it was in the red 85% for over a decade. Now, if you are 50 or 60 or 70 or 80, and the BIS is warning that the current stock market bubble is bigger than anything we've ever seen and actually has more debt and leverage, it could take out the entire banking system worse than 2008 with the global financial crisis, then you should not be listening. This is to your question, listening to your financial advisor that, oh yeah, if the market drops, it'll just wait it out. It'll come back. There's no point in being overexposed to a disproportionate amount of risk. Stocks can still go up for another year or two, no problem. But when they crash, it's going to be massive. And do you want to be in your retirement unsure that you can make ends meet because your 401k or your portfolio or whatever it is that you have has been cut in half or more, and you've got to sit on those losses for 5, 10, 15 years. Again, the precedents are there. We just haven't seen anything like this yet. And, history happens, or what is it? History doesn't repeat, but people do, right? Or it doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Cycles are a thing to be studied, right? Currencies have cycles. Empires have cycles. The business cycle, which is a normal recession, we have, normally you see them every 10 years. We haven't had one since 08. It's 16 years now, or more than that. That's 18 years, right? So, we're overdue for a lot of these things. We're overdue for the currency to fail. We're overdue for a big recession and a big stock market crash. And I'm not trying to doom and gloom everyone. I'm just trying to put things into context, right? So if you want to have some risk reward asymmetry, that's been my philosophy. I want to own the safest things that will actually perform the best in kind of these types in these types of circumstances. I don't want to have very much risk, but I want to have lots of upside for the amount of risk I'm willing to take. Now, you can gamble everything on a little penny stock and you might get more returns, but you also have more risk of losing it all. You're never going to lose it all with gold and silver. They have minimal risk, especially down here at these lower prices from earlier in the year. And then long-term, obviously history backs it up by thousands of years of they always stand the test of time.
And by the way, just so that, and this is the most important thing, I've known Colin and been a part of Noble Gold for a long time. They are simply the best. I'm not saying this. Customer reviews, low key. You're not, put it this way, you're not selling something. Selling to me means I don't really want it. And you got to convince me. You're a facilitator, whatever you want to call it. You are the nicest people, the most low key. Will help you, because let's face it, people never, what's funny is, it's funny. Men are the worst in being able to say, I don't know what's going on. They asked one time years ago, there was a study to say in the old days when we had mechanics, who was more likely to be bamboozled, a man or a woman? They said, a man. Because a woman will say, I don't know what this is. But a man will say, of course I know what the Fisteris universal generator gimbal is. Of course I do. Of course. Who doesn't? So sometimes people are afraid to say, I should know more about this. This is the place. There is this link below I want you to go to. This is it. Go to this link because this link connects you to me in a special service. So it's here underneath, right there in the description section. And this has been so interesting because I love this idea of this thing that we have attached worth to. Before we did it, we have attached worth to this. And we have been now trying to look at this. And when you see shows on TV, these investment shows, I don't want to mention any names, but I don't get the impression they have my best interest at heart. And there's also something, dare I say, not, and I don't mean to say this, not sexy about gold. Especially, I'm in plastics. I'm in cardboard. The cardboard sector. What? The cardboard sector. This is as fundamental. This is, as you say, biblical. It's so smart and so wise. So if you're watching this right now and you've thought for yourself, you know what? Gold and silver, this is it. I've been putting it off. Use a special link that I have below for the great people at Noble Gold. And when you connect with them, it's very, very important. You can then say, how do I talk to that Micah Haince feller? I like him. He's smart. And by the way, anybody who has a severed head of some animal you killed, I think is important because I think that gives you an idea of your worldview because you do to the financial systems what you do.
I try to walk the walk and talk the talk. I'm all in on gold and silver, have been forever, but I'm a homesteader, I'm a prepper, I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm a hunter, I'm a father. I'm just trying to make
please, you're a man after my heart.
There you go. So it's just
well, don't forget what Gore Vidal. Don't forget Gore Vidal says about a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy analyst.
There you go.
If you don't think there's something to this, you haven't been paying attention.
So many of them aren't theories anymore. What's the scoreboard since 2020? Like 99-0 for conspiracy theorists, basically. So,
and the difference, they say, what's the difference? 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Between conspiracy theory and conspiracy facts.
Well, let me tell you something. I hate to bring up your buddy Fauci, but yesterday, a lot of those big time and senators, I'm thinking, excuse me, who are you? You were the one who, wait a minute, now you're real tough. Now you all of a sudden grew a backbone and other accoutrement, and now you're giving Fauci a hard time. You weren't then. Now you've wised up. It's funny after the fact, this post hoc 2020 mindset. I don't want to get into that, but it's so funny how we're right again.
Yeah, and we'll be right about these other things that seem conspiracy theory about the dollar's potential to fail, the government's potential to default on its debt or to do a debt jubilee, like a debt reset or a monetary reset. And I don't try to doom and gloom or sensationalize any of this stuff. I just think that every individual needs to be looking at what the biggest institutions are doing and why they're doing it. And buying gold is actually something that makes a lot of sense when you look at the big picture and the historical context for gold being the tier 1 asset globally, no matter what, bar none. And so if they're accumulating like crazy, what's the agenda that they're rolling out next that makes sense? It will make sense in hindsight that they bought so much gold, record levels. Like China bought more in the first 2 quarters of this year by 2 or 3 times what they did in all of last year. And last year was a huge banner year prior to 26 as well. So there's too many signs, right? So try to be where the puck is going, not where it is. You're never going to hear from mainstream news or mainstream financial advisors that you need this stuff. And it's like you gotta find your own research. You got to do your own due diligence. You got to find your own reasons for wanting to do something. And we'll be happy to help anyone that calls us. And you can ask for me and work with me personally, but any of my fantastic colleagues are just like me. We're all investors. We're all living the dream and walking the walk and talking the talk and helping people every day get sorted and situated for what's coming.
I don't think we didn't miss the Gretzky reference there. I got your number there, Haince. I got your number. Anyway, it was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Micah Haince, I got to tell you something seriously. You can believe this. So many times when you hear people talk about this, it is the most boring. It's the same. I always thought to myself, I told this one guy it was terrible. I shouldn't say that. I said, the mystery calling. I said, if ever I wanted to reverse teen pregnancy, I'd have you explain the sex act. They never want to do it. This is the worst thing. But you are
Thanks.
spot on, my friend. My
Thank
God.
you. Well, it's a pleasure and a joy and a passion, right? So that's really
Absolutely.
all you need to be successful in anything. And I'm just happy to help anyone. And appreciate the time you've given me on your show. And
Absolutely.
What a riot. And I hope I can come back on, Lionel.
Are you kidding me? Absolutely. Micah Haince from the great folks at Noble Gold. Seriously, the best people, the best products, the best service. Take my word for it. Click that link below. You will be so glad you did. Mr. Haince, on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you, sir, for all of your time, your effort, and your expertise.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure. You take care and be well.
Indeed, sir.